Mr. G, and I want to go over 9 key points that I think will help you with your rhythm guitar playing. Whether you're a beginner or advanced, I think these are 9 key ways that if you work on these with your practice routine, they're going to help you become a better rhythm guitar player. Now let's start with key number 1. It's to learn your basic open chords. Now, when I play an acoustic rhythm guitar player, I tend to play a little more open chords, and then when I play my electric, I'll tend to play a little more bar chords. But either way, I do blend, usually depending on what key I'm playing in, of both. But your basic open chords are really important to learn, and that could be your basic G, right? I got here my G major open chord. I have my C major open chord, D major, all your basic open chords. You try to memorize those and get those down. And then, not just your basic open chords, but kind of your more alternative open chords. So, for example, I'm going to play a A major open chord here. But there's alternative type of open chords I can play also for A major. There's this one up here. There's this one up here. I have a D major open chord here. That's kind of my basic one. And I can kind of add in some alternative type of open chords. Here's another one. Here's an E major basic open chord. And then I can come up here and play this kind of alternative E major open chord. So I think it's important to learn your basic open chords and then also learn your kind of alternative open chords that'll really add a lot of flavor and a lot of sound to your rhythm guitar playing. Now, that being said, it's also important to learn your bar chords. Bar chords with the root on the 6th and the root on the 5th especially. As you get into your more advanced playing, you're going to start playing a lot of bar chords also with the root on the 4th. But most of the time, you will be playing with the root on the 6th or the 5th. Now, with the root on the 6th, basically that means if I'm playing a major bar chord shape here, here's a major bar chord shape, and if the root is on the 6th, that means whatever that 6th note is there, in this case it's a G, that'll be my G major bar chord. If I go up 2 frets and the root there is on the A on the 6th string, 5th fret, that'll be my A major bar chord. And then I also want to learn those bar chords with the root on the 5th string. For example, I have a shape here that I can move up and down the fretboard, but if the root is on the 5th string, 3rd fret, that shape becomes a C major bar chord. And if I come up 2 frets, where the root's on the 5th string, 5th fret, that becomes a D major bar chord. So it's really important to learn those different bar chords with the root, especially on the 6th and 5th string. And what kind of bar chords and what kind of major chords do you want to learn also? Well, I would say your major, your minor, then your 7th chord, especially with blues, and then your sus chords. Your sus2 and your sus4 chords are really important, especially in in rock music. So your major, your minor, your sus chords, and your 7th chords. So I think those are a good 4 to start with. Yeah, so for the minor, you might have the minor 7th, right? And you're going to learn those too. But I say if you're just beginning, just get your basic minor chord down. And as you advance a little bit, learn your minor 7th too. And other minor chords, okay? So, but that's a good place to start for both your open chords and for your bar chords is with your major, your minor, your 7th and your sus chords. Now, another thing you want to learn is your timing. Get a good metronome and practice your timing. 3/4, your 4/4, and your 6/8. Get a good metronome and practice your chords along with those different tempos in those different beats. And then another thing you're going to want to do is your strumming pattern. Yeah, you have your straight up strumming that you're going to basically tackle early on in your rhythm guitar playing. If I was playing 4/4, I'm just playing a steady rhythm here. You have your steady rhythm that you're going to want to play, but you're going to want to learn to add in some other strumming patterns. Work on different strumming patterns. I think that's the key. When you listen to a lot of good rhythm guitar players, they really add a lot of cool strumming patterns. You know, you take someone like Keith Richards and you hear how he strums the guitar, and you can do a lot of really not only good strumming patterns, but also not just your fretting hand, but your picking hand you can do a lot of cool things with too. So if I'm strumming along here, I can take this picking hand and kind of move it up and down the strings here and give a little different sound. So you kind of see how you can make the guitar sound a little different way, those strumming patterns, with your picking hand also. So work on those strumming patterns, man, and that's really going to help your rhythm guitar playing. Another thing I think is a key to work on is your movement between your chords. Now, I grew up playing a lot of jazz and classical, and one thing I was trained on early on was to try to keep as many fingers on the fretboard as possible without moving them a whole lot. Now, let me explain what that means. So if you're jamming along in a song, you're playing rhythm, yeah, it's fun to kind of play up and down the fretboard, but there's other times when it's kind of cool to keep it kind of minimal. So I'll give you an example of this. Let's say I'm playing a song in the key of A, and I'm going between A, D, and an E. If I'm strumming along this A to D, I can kind of, instead of going from, let's say, A to D, or let's say playing an A like this, and switch it down to a D like this, I'll try to move as minimal as I have to. I can play an A like this and kind of mute that first string. If I want to play a D, I can just kind of use my middle finger there and then unmute the first string. So I can go back and forth with using really very little movement on my fretting hand. Then if I wanted to throw in an E, a major with that, well, if I just slide this up, although I'm doing some movement, it's just the one finger. I can slide it up here to the 9th fret, mute that 5th string, and I basically have an E here. I have an E, B, E, and a G sharp. And I'll just mute that 1st and 5th string. So you can kind of play the A, the D, and the E major all with very little movement. So I think that's really a good thing to add into your playing sometimes, especially if you're leading the song with rhythm, and if you're on stage and you don't want to move your hands around too much. Learn how to make the most minimal movement. And another thing you want to pay attention to is your dynamics. Maybe when the song's building up, you might kick on your distortion pedal. You might play a little louder. When the song's coming down, play a little softer. You don't want to be that guy when you're on stage, especially when you're playing out, when everything's coming down, you're still just chugging along, playing too much, you know what I mean? So pay close attention to your dynamics, you know. When you're playing in a band, it is a band. Everybody has their part. But again, you don't want to outplay everybody else with just being loud. And, you know, so really pay close attention to dynamics. I think that's a key part of rhythm guitar playing. And another thing you want to work on is your different keys, understanding how your different keys go. So if I'm playing the key of C, I know my chords would be the C major, F major, G major. I know I'm going to have a B, a diminish, and then I'm going to normally have my minors, your D minor, A minor, and E minor. So I know just by looking at that C what chords are in that key. And I think that's a good thing to be familiar with, your different keys and what chords you are playing in those keys. And one more thing to kind of end it here is develop your own style as a rhythm guitar player. There's a lot of great rhythm guitar players to listen to, but as you're learning how to play rhythm guitar and as you're advancing into rhythm guitar player, you're going to decide what you like best, what kind of gear you like to play out of, what kind of pedals, what kind of electric or acoustic guitar, what kind of amps you like to use. You're going to really develop your own sound and your own style, okay? So I think, again, those are 9 points that'll really help your rhythm guitar playing. And if you go to the description, I'm going to attach some helpful things. I'll link to my different bar chords I taught. I'll link to my different open chords. I'll link to how to figure out what chords are in the key you're playing in. So a lot of different links I'm going to put in the description to kind of help you along for my past videos. But anyways, it's Mr. G. I hope this video on rhythm guitar playing helped you out. And again, as always, keep on jamming.